each other, assuring the people of Kirinyaga that a woman governor, no matter which way they voted, would be elected into office. In the only coastal county to have chosen a female governor, all preparations for the swearing-in ceremony of Fatuma Achani, who is no stranger to that office, after serving as deputy governor for the last decade, will take her oath of office. In Garissa County, the Garissa Primary School grounds will host the swearing-in ceremony of a man stepping back into the governor's shoes after losing the election in 2017. All preparations for the big day for Garissa Governor-elect Nadhif Jama and his deputy-elect Abdi Dagane had been completed. In Kisii County, former Dagoretti North MP Simba Arati has expressed excitement and commitment to serve the people of his native Kisii after officially taking office on Thursday in a ceremony that will be held at the Kisii Stadium.
Nitasimamisha kazi gushi ambazo zilikuwa zinafanyika ama gushi, zile kazi ambazo ni mbovu, watu wanalipwa hewa.
In Nyeri County, Deputy President-elect Rigathi Gachagua is expected to grace Nyeri Governor's swearing-in ceremony on Thursday. The incumbent Mutahi Kahiga will serve his second term in office once sworn in as the country's fourth governor since devolution. Former regional commissioner turned politician George Natembeya will take his oath of office in his new capacity as governor of Trans Nzoia County several months after he removed his official uniform. In Muranga, all is set for the assumption of office of newly elected Governor Irongo Kangata, who takes over from Mwangi wa Iria, who completed his 2-year term in office. In Tharaka Nithi, all is ready for Muthomi Njuki to take his second and final oath of office as the governor elected to serve the people of that county.
We are expecting around 10,000 people.
In Busia County, all indicators were that Governor-elect Paul Otuoma and his deputy Arthur Odera will take oath of office in time to beat the 2 p.m. deadline. Over 600 guests have been invited to witness this ceremony. President Kenyatta's home county of Kiambu, the Committee on the Transition of the Handing Over the Instruments of Power to the Kiambu Governor-elect Paul Kimani Wamatangi, was laying the last plans to ensure that the swearing-in ceremony will be successful. The newly constructed Kirigiti Stadium will host the ceremony, which will also be attended by the outgoing governor. In Bomet County, the incumbent Governor Stanley Barchok, who defended his seat, will take oath of office after being elected for the first time, though he will be serving a second and final term. He became governor after the death of Joyce Laboso, one of the 3 women elected governors in 2017. In Baringo County, former Governor Benjamin Cheboy was upbeat that the second chance he had been given by the people of a county he first served in 2013 isn't a right, but a privilege that he seeks to take seriously in his service. He too will take his oath of office Thursday in Kabarnet.
It's really building up upon the successes and analyzing the challenges that are facing us as a county.
In the neighborhood, the preparation for the swearing-in ceremony for Kericho's new governor has been set. Speaking on the eve of the swearing-in, Dr. Eric Mutai, the governor-elect, has said his ascent to power will mark a new beginning for that county. In Kajiado County, the Idamat Stadium will host the swearing-in ceremony of Joseph Olelenku, who will begin his final term in office after taking that all-important oath to serve. The ceremonies will be officiated by a High Court judge and administered by the officials of the county governments and will be expected to be witnessed by masses in easy-to-access open areas. Leila Mohammed, NTV.
You will take note that the elections for the governors of Mombasa and Kakamega are still pending. In meeting the demands by Azimio la Umoja One Kenya leader Raila Odinga and Martha Karua in their presidential petition, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission yesterday submitted the certified physical and electronic copies of the election results declaration forms for the court's perusal. While submitting the forms and other election requirements as required, Commissioner Boya Molu maintained that the IEBC conducted a free, fair and verifiable election and that it will be proven in court. NTV's Ibrahim Karanja with that report.
Few minutes to 2 p.m. Wednesday, IEBC Commissioner Boya Molu, CEO Marjan Hussein Marjan and their lawyer Wambua Kilonzo led the rest of the team to the Supreme Court Registry based at the Milimani Law Courts. Here, the Commission submitted election materials, among them results declaration forms, as was the demand by Raila Odinga and Martha Karua in their petition to challenge the outcome of the presidential election. In the Odinga-Karua petition, they wanted the Commission and its chair Wafula Chebukati to avail all the material, including electronic documents, devices and equipment for the presidential election within 48 hours. They also wanted the IEBC to avail and allow access for purposes of inspection of all the logs of any and all servers hosted by and or on behalf of the Commission in respect of the presidential election within 48 hours of filing the petition. The electoral body has now submitted to the court 46,229 physical copies of Forms 34A, 291 copies of Forms 34B, as well as copies of Form 34C and 34D. With parts of the evidence by Odinga and Karua being that the electronic copies of Form 34A were manipulated, thus leading to incorrect final tally in the presidential race, IEBC also presented all the certified results declaration forms in soft copy for the court's perusal. The Commission remaining upbeat that it conducted a free and fair election.
We are very, very satisfied. Election is a very regulated process. We have followed the election law to the letter. We are very confident that there is no any violation of any procedures, rules or regulation. But that is why we have court. It is court to determine.
With the fallout witnessed between IEBC commissioners in regards to the final outcome of the presidential race, it remains unclear whether the 4 breakaway commissioners, led by Vice Chair Juliana Cherera, will agree to be party to the forms presented.
Because 4 distanced themselves from the results that was announced, the 4 are also respondents to this case, including yourself.
I think now we are here for submission of election material. We'll leave it at that. The other matters we can discuss in another forum.
IEBC's submission of both the physical and electronic forms 34A, 34B, 34C and 34D now sets in motion the process of perusal by the court. This even as all the respondents still remain with 3 days to file their final response. Ibrahim Karanja, NTV from the Supreme Court in Nairobi.
An Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission clerk attached to Nyeri's Kieni West constituency has been charged in court for contravening the Election Offences Act by issuing a voter excess ballot papers on August the 9th. While appearing before Senior Principal Magistrate James Masharia on Wednesday, Pamela Wangui, who worked as a clerk at Kihuhiro Primary School, was accused of giving John Maina, a voter, 5 stamped presidential ballot papers and an extra parliamentary ballot paper to vote. Maina, who also appeared at the court alongside the IEBC clerk, faced a count of being in possession of extra stamped ballot papers at the polling booth. The court heard that the duo was arrested after the presiding officer raised an alarm on noticing that there was a voter who overstayed at the polling booth. They were released on 100,000 shillings cash bail each, and their case will be heard on September the 12th. Speaking of court, the Azimio Presidential Campaign Secretariat has unveiled its team of legal minds who will battle it out at the Supreme Court to challenge the results of the August 9th presidential election. Now, senior counsels James Orengo, Feroz Nurwoji, Philip Murgo and Okongo Omogeni will be in charge of the team of attorneys handling the petition. The case management team will be led by lawyers Paul Mwangi and Jackson Awele, Julie Soweto, Velma Momo, Professor Bensi Hanya, Fred Orengo, Fred Orego, Dan Manzo, and Tom Masharia. And to reinforce the team and add more legal muscle is a group of more than 20 attorneys who will provide other legal assistance. They include Tony Moturi, Dr. Judy Olo, Celestine Opio, Arnold Oginga, Barbara Maloa, Ada Awiti, Justice Jura, Leonard Okanda, Plister Omondi, Winnie Makaba, Jerusa Michael, Deborah Bubi, George Oma, Edward Ambala, Geoffrey Sore, Naila Salim, Tabitha Wadhuti, John Njomo, Jacqueline Joroge, Speranza Nyawira, Kinywa Hannington Amol, as well as Ndegwa Njiru, Matthews Okoth, Kennedy Wanyanga, and Kevin Katisia. Professor Makau Mtua, Dr. Adams Olo, Caesar Vanjao, and CN Kihara will be consultants on the petition legal team. That is quite the long list of advocates. Now, the Kenya Kwanza Alliance is confident that the Supreme Court will uphold its victory in the just concluded general election. And they now want the Azimio principal, Raila Odinga, to assure the country that he will maintain peace should the Supreme Court dismiss his petition. Deputy President-elect Rigathi Gachagua, while leading UDA campaigns for the Rongai Member of Parliament by-election, said the constituency stands to benefit under the Kenya Kwanza leadership, as Bridget Skada reports.
Rongai constituency in Nakuru County is set for a battle royale in Monday's by-election, where Deputy President William Ruto is seeking to seal the fate of the Independence Party, KANU, that has never lost an election here since it was annexed as a constituency. In the just concluded general election, KANU party leader and Baringo Senator Gideon Moi lost his seat as the Baringo Senator. And now, a bruising battle awaits Raymond Moi, the incumbent Member of Parliament and a KANU candidate who will take on UDA's Paul Chebor, a former Member of County Assembly, with Deputy President-elect Rigathi Gachagua saying it is time the Rift Valley detached from the patronage of the late President Moi's family.
Si vijana ya Moi ni mtu ya Azimio. Si Baringo wamenyorosha ile Gideon. Si Baringo wamenyorosha. Si nini Wature. Sasa mnyinyi na watu ya Baringo iko tofauti. Sasa kama wale wa Baringo wamefanya hesabu, wamejipanga na William Ruto, wamesema ni UDA kutoka juu mpaka chini, watu ya Rongai utashindwa kujipanga.
Rigathi promising goodies for residents should they send Raymond Moi home.
Sasa mjue mkiweka mtu ya Azimio, Kenya itaendelea bila nyinyi. Mkitaka kuwa kwa meza ya kupanga Kenya, kugawa viti ya jeshi, ya polisi, barabara, maji, mtuletee mtu ya UDA akae kwa hiyo meza.
UDA leaders defending their win at the general election that is currently in contest at the Supreme Court.
Hakuna kesi, itaisha ikianza. Siku yenye inaanza inaisha siku hiyo. Na mtaona tu, si tuliambia kura hawezi iba, wakatuambia wako na system.
Muripiga kura mpaka wale wengine wanapeleka kesi kotini. Kwa sababu wanauliza, mtu mmoja anaweza pewaje hii kura yote? Tunawaambia mambo bando.
Rongai constituency is the last frontier for President-elect William Ruto as he seeks to have 9 members of parliament out of the 11 constituencies here in Nakuru County. However, he faces stiff competition from the Independence Party KANU, whose candidate is the incumbent member of parliament, Raymond Moi. Bridget Ghana, NTV, Nakuru.
Azimio la Umoja One Kenya presidential candidate Raila Odinga now wants the Supreme Court to declare him as president-elect. Odinga states that he does not want a rerun, indicating that the evidence before the Supreme Court will invalidate the election and hand him his win. NTV's Coast Affairs reporter Kevin Mutai also tells us that the Azimio Brigade will be pitching camp in Mombasa and Kakamega counties to rally support for their preferred candidates in the upcoming gubernatorial contest.
Azimio la Umoja One Kenya presidential candidate Raila Odinga made his first visit to the county of Mombasa a fortnight after the August 9th general election. Odinga, while hosting elected leaders and residents, faulted the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission for declaring presidential results containing alleged irregularities.
Mimi sina huzuni, sina uoga, hapana bwana.
Odinga saying that his case at the Supreme Court challenging DP Ruto's win as the president-elect is full of watertight evidence that will reveal his victory. He claims that the plot to rig elections was hatched months ago and orchestrated by a web of individuals, among them foreigners, some of whom were arrested at the JKIA after being found in possession of election-related materials.
Tunataka kwanza mahakama iseme ya kwamba sisi ndio tulishinda. Na hiyo ni ukweli. Tulishinda na badala ya kurudi katika uchaguzi tena tutangaze washindi tuende tukachukue kiapo.
Ulimwengu mzima unajua ya kwamba walifanya filifinyange za kutaka kuchukua mamlaka na kuchukua madaraka kwa kupitia madirishani.
And now he wants the IEBC Vice Chair Juliana Cherera to oversee the gubernatorial polls in Mombasa and Kakamega, accusing Chebukati of rocking the commission from within, leading to a split among the commissioners.
Sasa mimi natangaza hapa bwana Chebukati should disqualify himself from presiding over the elections in Kakamega and Mombasa. Ili haki iweze kutendeka hapa.
But the IEBC, while responding to Odinga, stated that, and I quote, the commission wishes to inform the public that the statement by the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga regarding the role of the chairman for the Monday gubernatorial elections are misleading. It further read that the elections will be run by gazetted returning officers as provided for by the law. The leaders here claiming that postponement of the governor elections was ill-advised.
Na wale walibadilisha siku ndivyo watudhulumu, tuwaambie watakula huu. Amkeni, fungueni macho, fungueni masikio, toeni taka kwenye masikio. Hapa ndani ya Mombasa hapigwi mwingine, anataka kupigwa Raila Amolo Odinga kwa sababu ndio ngome yake.
It was a well calculated move, it was not an error. And mind you, baada uchaguzi tarehe 29, baada Supreme Court ruling, we will revisit this matter. Tutayarejelea tena. We deserve answers. Kwa nini watu wa Mombasa na Kakamega waliweza kudhalilishwa namna hii?
They also drummed up support for Abdulsamad Sharif Nasir for the county's top job at the Port City.
Tunataka wafuasi wetu wote wasikufu moyo, wajitokeze kwa wengi zaidi. Siku hiyo ionekane ya kwamba Mombasa ni Azimio zone.
Mulitupatia 26 MCAs out of 30. Na kura zilizo nyingi Mombasa mmepatia baba. Asanti sana. Hizo nguvu zenu muzitoe sasa tupate gavana.
Limebaki chungwa moja ndugu zangu, ambalo ni muhimu sana. Katika eneo bunge la Kisauni, nikiwa nitakosa gavana, iko shida.
Please tell me the scientific method you will use to try and win these elections in Kakamega and Mombasa. Njia watakaojaribu kuitumia. And this is why nawaomba na nawasihi watu wote tuwe macho na tuwe ngangare, my friend.
Hapa mbele tarehe 29 tuko na vita bado vinaendelea vya gavana Mheshimiwa Abdulsamad Sharif Nasir. Tutasimama na wewe kwa hali na mali. Tutakampeni kila mahali na wewe. Tutakampeni kila mahali na wewe. Lakini jukumu la kubadilisha Mombasa liko kwenye bega lako sasa. And Mombasa must change. Mombasa must. And change must. Change must.
Azimio la Umoja One Kenya presidential flag bearer Raila Odinga now wants Kenyans to be patient regarding the presidential petition before the Supreme Court, at the same time expressing his confidence with the apex court. Kevin Mutai, NTV in Mombasa County.
All right, away from matters elections, police in Athi River, Machakos County, yesterday arrested a 40-year-old man for allowing his 9-year-old to drive his vehicle. The vehicle, a Toyota Passo on Mombasa Road. Athi River Sub-County Police Commander Mary Njoki said motorists spotted the minor in the driver's seat and alerted authorities, leading to the pursuit of the vehicle. Traffic officers stopped the vehicle, but the young boy fled from the law enforcers and accelerated towards Athi Township. Upon intercepting the vehicle, police found the boy in the driver's seat, his father as a co-driver, and the boy's 7-year-old sister in the rear in the passenger seat. The children's father was arrested and taken to Athi River Police Station. His children were later taken to school by police officers.
Wakati unapompea mtoto gari aliendeshe, unahatarisha maisha yake mwenyewe na maisha ya wengine barabarani. Kwa hivyo ninashauri wazazi wetu wasiwaruhusu watoto wao kuendesha magari kama hawajahitimu miaka inayoruhusiwa na serikali.
Astounding. All right, let's take a look at the day's news diary. And this is day one. Now, as governors are being sworn in, new MPs-elect are meant to be going for orientation sessions for their swearing in. The law does stipulate that the president has to gazette the first sitting within the first 30 days following their election. Now, governors swearing in, as Leila Mohammed captured it, governors are being sworn in today. Rigathi Gachagua, who is the Kenya Kwanza running mate for the president-elect William Ruto, and therefore DP-elect, is going to be present there at Susan, I believe it is in Nakuru. No, okay, Susan Kihika is swearing in Nakuru, and respondents file responses to the presidential petition filed by Azimio and others. Raila to lead campaigns in the by-elections. You saw him there in Mombasa, and recall that it's not just Mombasa which has a pending poll. The Kakamega governor's seat is also open, as well as that of Rongai, and I'm told actually that Rigathi Gachagua will be in Nyeri County. And let me see, Kenya Kwanza leaders to also lead campaigns for their candidates as far as those pending elections are concerned. Okay, let's take a look at what is in the dailies on the front page of the Daily Nation now. And let's see this. Going for the last of the Mois. I did tell you that Rongai constituency is up for grabs. We have here an explanation. President-elect William Ruto has waged a bruising battle against the Moi dynasty, snatching the Rift Valley political mantle from the former president. And in the recent elections, kicking out Gideon from the Baringo Senate seat. Now he has his guns trained on Raymond in the Rongai MP elections. I can see a quote here from Raymond. Raymond Moi is, no, actually it's just a snippet. Raymond Moi is fighting to retain his Rongai parliamentary seat on a Kanu ticket, but William Ruto is angling to kick him out and complete his routing of the Moi political empire. Will the last of the Moi survive? And Gideon Moi himself is here. Gideon Moi lost the Baringo Senate seat to William Cheptumo. I can see here that report that was filed by Ibrahim Karanja. IEBC tables results forms to counter rigging claim. And the story of the day, here we have it. Governors-elect take over in countrywide swearings in. 45 governors-elect and their deputies will today take their oath of office to assume leadership of their counties following their victories in the August 9th general election. Among the county chiefs are 26 first-time governors, 11 incumbents, and 8 making a comeback after 5 years in the political cold. And at the very top, this is on teachers. Cooper demands increase of school fees. Interesting that Teachers Union says prices of commodities have gone up significantly since the last review of fees, and now it wants the Ministry of Education to push the extra burden of running schools to parents. Let's see what is on the front page of Taifa Leo before we get into the Daily Nation. And Raila atishia kususia marudio. Tunataka kwanza mahakama iseme sisi ndio tulishinda, na badala ya kutangaza turudi katika uchaguzi, tutangazwe washindi na tupewe cheti. Now, what the Constitution provides is that either the Supreme Court calls for a fresh election in 60 days, or number two, that they uphold the win. But I'm not a legal mind. I'll leave that to the lawyers. And the front page of the Business Daily: bank loan defaulters cross $500 billion for the first time. I don't know whether you can see that clearly. Let me just zoom in for you. There we go. Bank loan defaulters cross $500 billion for the first time. CBK data shows defaulted loans hit 514 billion shillings in June. Many firms won polls over before investing more. That is the front page of the Business Daily. And I think the last one we'll look at, the front page at least, is the East African. And here, old wine and new wineskin. Pundits say nothing in his political history indicates that Kenya's President-elect William Ruto represents diplomatic new order, and that he may not veer off the existing foreign policy. What does he bring to EAC? So, same old, they say, but business people are optimistic as they consider him one of them. All right, I have three panelists in studio, all mic'd up, and I'd like us to get into the conversation on these governors who are taking their oaths today. The law dictates that it happened between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. And if allow me to just look through that law, it is governed by the Assumption of the Office of Governor Act of 2019. And there is established an assumption of the Office of County Governor Committee, similar to that of the President, assumption of the Office of President. And those who sit on this committee are the County Secretary, who chairs it, the officer in charge of legal matters in the county, the chief officer in the department responsible for matters relating to county public service, the chief officer in the department responsible for matters relating to information and communication, and on it goes, including the county commissioner, representative of the NIS, that is the National Intelligence Service, police service, as well as a representative of the judiciary, two persons, one man and one woman, nominated by the governor-elect. And it continues, but I'd like to look at the procedure, what we expect to happen today. And part of the functions of the committee, before I get to that, is to facilitate the handing over process by the outgoing governor to the governor-elect, ensure and coordinate the provision of security services to the governor-elect, and put in place the necessary facilities and deploy the necessary personnel for the governor-elect upon assumption of office. And the assigning of security personnel is, of course, done as soon as the declaration is made by the IEBC. But I'd like us to take a look at these arrangements for the assumption of office by the governor-elect upon the declaration of the final results of the election of the governor by the Commission under Article 180 of the Constitution and Section 39 of the Elections Act. The committee shall ensure that the governor-elect and the deputy governor are accorded security. I think I mentioned that. And the swearing-in ceremony now, the committee shall publish by notice in the Kenya Gazette and the County Gazette the date, time and place for the conduct of the swearing-in ceremony. The county governor-elect shall be sworn in on the first Thursday after the 10th day following the declaration of the final results of the election of the county governor by the Commission. The swearing-in of the county governor-elect shall be conducted in a public ceremony before a High Court judge. The county governor-elect shall, during the swearing-in ceremony, take and subscribe to the oath of affirmation of office as prescribed in the first schedule. As I mentioned, the oath or affirmation under Section 1 shall be administered not earlier than 10 a.m. and not later than 2 p.m. And upon taking or subscribing to the oath of affirmation under Section 1, the county governor shall sign a certificate of inauguration in the presence of the High Court judge who conducts the swearing-in ceremony. And upon signing the certificate of inauguration, the outgoing governor shall hand over the following county symbols as a sign of transfer of executive power and authority. That is the county flag, the county coat of arms, the constitution, and the county public seal. So that is what we're going to see today. The provisions of this section shall not apply where the outgoing governor is not present during the inauguration. The incumbent is re-elected into office, and the county governor shall, county governor-elect shall, upon receiving the instrument of power, be considered to have assumed the office of the county governor. Now, failure by the outgoing county governor to hand over the instrument of power to the county governor-elect shall not invalidate the assumption to the office of county governor by the county governor-elect. Now, it goes on, and once that is all done, the deputy governor has also been sworn in. The county governor shall, upon the swearing in of the deputy county governor-elect, give an inauguration speech to the county. Now, I will leave it at that, but I hope this has painted a picture of what we can expect to see today as it happens across 45 counties. And this morning, I'm joined by 3 panelists. I need myself a drink of water. I see I have something here. I'm joined by Irene Otieno, who is the National Coordinator, National Taxpayers Association. My first time to host to Irene, but you, of course, I'm sure I'm not a new face to many out there. So good to see you this morning. Thank you for taking the time to join us. We're also joined by former nominated Senator Sylvia Kasanga. Good to see you.
Thank
You told me you were heading to one of these inaugurations. Is it in Makueni?
Actually, the 3. We have to attend the 3 because it's a big win for Wiper. So we have to do Kitui, we have to do Makueni and Machakos.
Okay, so you still have time. I read here that they start the ceremony. Is it the ceremony or the exchange of the instruments of power needs to happen? The oath of affirmation, yes, shall be administered not earlier than 10, not later than 2 p.m. Perhaps you can give us some insight on why that is. We're also joined by Dr. Elizabeth Gitau. Good to have you. Assistant Secgen, Kenya Medical Association.
Yes.
Happy to have you here as well.
Thank you very much.
All right, so I'll start with you. Well, why is this? Why must it be administered between 10 a.m. and 2?
Well, I think it's first for good order. It's good to do things in broad daylight. I think we come from history where we once saw, you know, assumption of office happening at the highest office, and it was late in the evening, if you remember back in 2007. And some of these things are informed by, you know, such histories that going forward, let us do things in a manner that is as transparent and as open, available for anyone to be able to attend and witness. You know, it's a question of witnessing the exchange of power and the assumption of office. So it's actually out of good order, and I believe that was really the intention of this law. And the fact that we are seeing it happening across board, you know, is also a beautiful thing. This is now where we come to the celebration of devolution, that we can actually proceed with our procedures and processes without necessarily even the president being in place. And it's wonderful. So I think it's a celebration that this law came into place. If you do remember, there's a time it was not there. And besides just the timelines of swearing in, there's many other provisions in this law that tell you there was a big gap before it came on how some governors took office without, you know, the orderliness that we see here, the transfer of, you know, even assets and you know, the office as it is. All that is prescribed in this law. And without this law, it was a big mess in the first round of governors when, you know, they were leaving office and new governors coming in. Back after 2010, you know, there was the first set of governors and then the second set of governors. So this law has brought a lot of order into how the office is being assumed. And we are seeing that effect now. You know, this is a time now when we are really seeing the full impact of assumption of office law. So yeah, that's what I can tell you. It's wonderful.
All right. Irene, I saw some letters flying about from the EACC to the judiciary, that is the Chief Justice, and back from the Chief Justice to the EACC. The EACC asking the Chief Justice to see to it, because when I was scrolling through this, I saw that this shall be done in public and presided over by, was it a High Court judge, Sylvia?
Yes, it's
Let me see. Yes, here it is. Yes. The swearing in of the county governor-elect shall be conducted in a public ceremony before a High Court judge. So the EACC requested the Chief Justice to ensure that these leaders, as they take their oath of office, also subscribe to upholding the integrity of their office, a request that was granted by the Chief Justice. Do you think that is making progress as far as integrity, the fight against corruption is concerned?
Thanks for the question. And indeed, as civil society players, and that's where I engage in a lot, and in terms of the space around accountability, I think it's fundamental that they appreciate, in as much as they're taking office, it's a high office that we expect maximum accountability. We know there's been a lot of concerns from both the EACC and the Auditor General around how devolved funds are utilized. So I think by the moment of swearing them in, you have that aspect of first let it be a public ceremony so that you understand, you report to, and you represent an electorate who elected you. So there are demands around accountability and service delivery. So it's a good day in the sense that people are also celebrating their wins, but also to appreciate that there's a lot of high expectation from the roles and the governors that are going to be sworn in. And I do hope that the crop that have come in would then lead to a better utilization of public funds. Yes.
Okay, and I'll bring you in, Dr. Gitau, at this point. Part of this ceremony includes a speech by the county governor, and where is that? Upon taking or subscribing to the oath of affirmation under subsection 1, the county governor shall sign. I think we've taken a look at that. After the deputy governor takes his, I think after the deputy county governor, yes, after he takes, the county governor shall, upon the swearing in of the deputy governor-elect, give an inauguration speech to the county. That is section 15 of this act. What do you want to hear in these speeches?
All right, speaking as a healthcare worker, of course, what we want to hear from the governor is their understanding of the current health challenges within the counties. There's been a lot of growth during devolution in terms of growth of infrastructure, growth of purchase of equipment, but in terms of health workers and the actual service provision, we're still lagging behind. So I'm hoping to see the new governors look at what has been built and what they can do to improve the service delivery at their counties.
Okay. All right, we take a break, but when we come back, Sylvia,
yes,
you also want to weigh in on what you want to hear?
I want to add on to what she has said, our expectations of the new governors.
Yes, let's listen to that on the other side.
You know, when you look at this list of the new governors, it's a wonderful list. It's impressive. We have more women. We have a lot of young governors coming in now, you know, and we have some governors who had lost one term and now they are back again in full force, you know. So our expectation for devolution now is moving to the next level. And when you look at the amount of money that these counties, I mean, they're getting, 9 billion for most, in fact, an average of, okay, there's some getting 3 billion, but on average 9 billion, there's 10 and 11, 12 billion per year. So our expectation is that integrity, you know, and it's good they're taking that oath of integrity. We want to see a fight against corruption, which has trickled into the counties significantly, you know, and we want to see these people account for every coin. And many of these were my colleagues in Senate. So I'm actually now excited because, you know, that is our biggest fight in Senate. So now seeing them become governors, we hope they can carry that mantle of what they were fighting for into office and then change the way things are done in these offices, build upon, but also bring a breath of fresh air. And, you know, let's do that economy of the counties. Let's raise it now to the next bar.
All right, so we get into that in more detail, especially that question of accountability. I saw Irene like, we'll look at that on the other side of this break.
Now, the cancer burden is rising globally, exerting significant strain on populations and healthcare systems. In Kenya, cancer is the third leading cause of mortality.
It affects blood and blood-producing systems in the body.
There was imbalances in my blood. The red blood cells were above 208. The white blood cells were very low.
If you're not supplying oxygen to your vital organs, the brain, the heart, then you start feeling fatigue.
I was going around 100 and something, around 115. Going to the gym, working out, I noticed that I couldn't even have strength to lift weights.
Safaricom Foundation is uplifting communities by bringing their dreams to reality through Ndoto Zetu. Apply online or visit any Safaricom shop near you. Application deadline is 15th September 2022.
We remain worried. We are concerned even by the toll it is taking on people.
As the longest-running pandemic swept through the world, Africa braced for impact.
The beauty of this is that, Africa had learned from some lessons.
The promise of ingenuity and strong partnerships built on mutual respect breathed hope into the fight.
The MasterCard Foundation will deploy $1.3 billion.
Can one more push get the continent over the line?
But our basis is not a donation.
Unless and until the continent is equipped with the ability to manufacture vaccines, we will continue to be very vulnerable.
This is the untold story of how Africa has defied the odds in its response to COVID-19.
The county government of Kisii wishes to notify the general public that pursuant to the Assumption of Office of Governor Act 2019, the inauguration and swearing-in ceremony of the Kisii County Government Governor-elect, His Excellency Paul Simba Arati, and the Deputy Governor-elect, His Excellency Dr. Robert Onsare Monda, shall be held on Thursday, 25th August 2022 at the Gusii Stadium starting at 9 a.m. The event will be live on NTV. Kisii County, prosperity for all.
The Nairobi Hospital Accident and Emergency Center is manned by well-trained doctors and emergency nurses who are focused at saving lives. With a network of labs, you're guaranteed of accurate medical test results. The Nairobi Hospital is a center of renal excellence, providing cutting-edge technology with over 10 dialysis machines.
Welcome back to AM Live. You're anticipating that swearing-in ceremony for 45 governors today. The law tells us between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. And here's our story, what discussed just before the break. Governors elect their deputies to sign integrity code upon assuming office. Yes, this is on the standard. All newly elected state officers will sign the leadership and integrity codes before assuming office. The EACC CEO, Twalib Mbarak, has said the oath will be administered by judicial officers who have been appointed by Chief Justice Martha Koome to administer the oath. And here is a quote: "I have directed the assigned judges and judicial officers to engage with the appointed officer from EACC to facilitate the signing and commitment to the leadership and integrity codes." The law requires that elected state officers sign the leadership and integrity codes when they're taking the oath of office or within 7 days of assuming office. And this is one that I wanted my panelists to comment on. And this is a report on the wrong start as counties set to spend millions for quote-unquote befitting inauguration. Nairobi, Machakos, Trans Nzoia and Homa Bay among those with huge budgets. Some devolved units are seeking as much as 22 million shillings for an event that is expected to run for a maximum of 4 hours. Control of Budget, Margaret Nyakango, confirmed that she has received several requisitions approved some and rejected others because she says they are unimaginable. Let's take a look at more detail. Many incoming governors are said to start off on the wrong foot after revelations emerged that millions of shillings will be splurged in their swearing-in ceremonies on Thursday. In what heralds the continuation of wastage of taxpayers' money in the counties, some counties intend to spend in excess of 20 million shillings in the events. And it continues to read, the Star has established that while some counties have requested modest cash for the event, others are seeking huge amounts to give their bosses a quote-unquote befitting inauguration. In the requisitions made to the control of budget, some devolved units are seeking as much as 22 million shillings for an event that is expected to run for a maximum of 4 hours. They're asking for crazy amounts. They're asking for 17 million shillings, 18 million shillings, 20 million shillings, 22 million shillings. A source at the Office of the Controller of Budget disclosed, for instance, Nairobi, where we are now, is asking for over 20 million shillings. Machakos, Homa Bay and Trans Nzoia are the others asking for crazy amounts, the source added. Okay, I will leave it at that, but there is a county that asked for only 250,000, and that is Kirinyaga. Then there are others that asked for just about 1 million. Those ones we have approved, and that is a quote attributed to the Controller of Budget, Margaret Nyakango. I'll start with you, Irene. What do you make of all of this?
It's very disheartening, I must say, because I would think that the new leadership would at least even take time to pretend and tell us, hey, we are going to be a bit more, you know, use your resources well. But how you start already sets the tone to even the other staff and the other cadres that you have. So my fear is that the message we are sending to other county officials is a wrong message, first and foremost. Secondly, the context where then we know that the campaigns we had was people were campaigning along even the issue of unga. So people had nothing to eat. So it really, I would say, is again a wrong message being sent to taxpayers. We are struggling with the things like unga. Some of these counties that are asking for those amounts of money should be able to tell us how much they're bringing as on-source revenue. Because remember, the counties seem to be just asking, putting in a requisition and saying we want money. But remember, at the end of the day, a lot of taxes and fees will be taken from the hustlers, so to speak, at county level. So where do this devolved unit think they are getting the money from? I think that is what we must appreciate, that any money requested means it's taxes that were already paid by both corporates and individual at national and county. So if we appreciate that way, then we will know that there really is no place that these resources are coming from. It's a tax or debt, and we know we already have a crisis in these two regards. Our taxes are way high for taxpayers, and the debt levels are also crazy. But it's good to see that it's not across the board. There are people asking for 250,000. There are people asking for 1 million. And I'm happy some of those are women leaders, because then a lot of us, there's that perception that with the lady and women leaders, there's going to be a bit of, the way we budget in our households, you look at it that way, the way you look at county. So I'm a bit impressed with that. But more specifically, I'm happy with the Controller of Budget for putting her feet down, and I hope that is going to happen in all the counties, because we have constitutional offices that in terms of devolved units going rogue, you would expect that they weigh in. So I'm happy that it has already been picked up by the media first, to say thanks to the media for bringing this to people's attention. Secondly, to the Controller of Budgets. And I think she must be very strict with this and other costs to ensure that what we have seen in the previous devolved units is not what we see. We would want a change. And I don't expect a change so much, because even the governors who have come in, they are really most of them are from the system itself. So we don't expect that we can appeal to just that we are having new people. But I think our appeal should be to the institutions that provide oversight, that is the Controller, Auditor General, but more specifically, it ought to be the taxpayers within those devolved units. Are they raising it themselves? If it's a public event, this is somewhere they should also be able to say, we do not want our 20 or 22 million going to 4 or so hours, as you've said. Give priorities. So I would expect more pushback really from the people that voted in those areas.
Okay. Dr. Gitau, what do you make of this?
Indeed, it's quite insulting when you look at counties in terms of their first day at work. And the first thing is spending millions of money on issues that are not really very important to the county. Indeed, I've just been reading the papers and I'm seeing a lot of health workers not being paid, a lot of Kenyans complaining of the high taxes, high bills. So indeed, we do hope that this will not be a trend. And maybe now this goes into, even as we form regulations and as we, even as Senate forms and even as the National Assembly comes into place, are these things where we might want to cap them in terms of how much you can spend and even where you can actually spend it.
Okay. My producer, Roslyn Obala, is on the other side of this earpiece. She's like my Siri. You know how you go, Siri? So she wanted to know about the composition of this Assumption of Office committee. So Sylvia, but before you weigh in on that, are we being unfair? I know, for example, in Homa Bay, Gladys Wanga is the first female to be elected governor in Nyanza.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
Where else? Nairobi, perhaps the cost of tents and flowers is higher than in Kirinyaga. I don't know. Are we being unfair, Sylvia?
Well, you know, until you see a breakdown of how the money is being spent, you can't really, you know, speak with authority. But of course, we have to question. Must we spend so much at the beginning, at a time when, like she's saying, Kenyans are really struggling and they're suffering. And most of these governors have, during campaigns, like in Ukambani and other areas, were dishing out food subsidies. Actually, that's how bad, you know, the situation is. But to give them some credit, you know, many of them are coming in, of course, for the first time, like we have seen this list that is here in the paper today, and they want the people to celebrate with them. In fact, many of them, as you can see, they're in the stadium, and the invitations have gone to the public. You know, come and witness the swearing in of the governor. So you can see they want a big open ceremony as opposed to a small closed ceremony where the people don't get to feel that this person we have voted for, we want to experience them taking oath of office. We want to be part and parcel of taking oath of office. And of course, like I'll tell you in Ukambani, you cannot get people together and not feed them. I mean, there's quite a bit of drought biting in most parts of our region. So my expectation is that today I shall find, you know, because we are all meeting in open public spaces, that the people who will attend, they will be given something to eat as well, you know, and something to take home for that instance. So that budget will have to cover now for that, because people are coming in. I mean, there's a lot of excitement. They want to see these young governors coming in. We want to see Wavinya Ndeti, first female governor in Machakos, come in. And you know how she fought for that seat. She has been campaigning for so many years, you know. She had to fight to the highest court the last election, where she felt the election had been stolen. So she wants Machakos people to come and celebrate with her from every corner. You see that? Governor Malombe is a returnee, if I'm to call him that. Yeah, one term, then he's out, he's back again. He's one of the few who have come back again, looking forward to you know, continue with something they had started. And the people have realized we need this person to come back and continue, because clearly the people felt they had veered off, you know, with their selection of the second governor. So he wants the people of Kitui to come from every corner so that they can witness the coming back of this governor and, you know, the promises that he has put out to the people. They want the speech when it is read, that first speech and the promise that they will make during that first speech. They want the word to go out and as far as possible through the words of people. You know, it's always most impactful when you hear it from somebody who, I was there and this is what he said. And you go and say that to the people back at home in the villages. So I can cut them some slack to that extent, that they want the public to participate in the swearing in. And therefore the budgets have to accommodate, you know, all that. So I think I would cut them a little bit of slack. But to agree with my panelists, let this not be the trend. Yeah. This should not be the trend. And of course, we know there's a committee that is being chaired, I think, by the county secretary. So it is not really the governor himself who has demanded, you know, automatically these things. There's a committee also that is moderating these things. So the committee also has to be put to task you know, to explain exactly how these monies are going to be spent. I'm sure they're the ones who have sourced for the procurement has been done by the committee, you know, and everything around that. So our hope is that, of course, we don't see this going on in this direction.
Okay, so I've just put on your screen, on this, my touch screen, who makes up this committee so that Kenyans know where to direct their questions. But Irene, and actually Sylvia, when you head to Machakos, do tell us what the event will be like. I know you mentioned Wavinya Ndeti.
Yes.
And I can see that report by the staff flagged actually Machakos County as being among those that have asked for a huge chunk of money.
Yes.
So do tell us if the money will be well spent.
Okay.
But speaking of prudent use of resources, Irene, I asked a question of Dr. Gitau, which is what she is looking to hear in those inauguration speeches. What are you looking to hear?
First, I'm very keen on how the devolved units intend to raise revenue. So I would want to hear these county governments talking about being sensitive to the vulnerable within their counties. So I'm looking at women, I'm looking at people living with disabilities, small traders. How will they balance the need to raise resources while also not pushing these businesses, you know, out? So for me, a critical thing is the fiscal space. So how will they raise that revenue? I'm also looking at service delivery, which is key to Mwananchi. I think at the time we elect these leaders, we are looking at improved healthcare. I'm looking at improved education. I'm looking at better markets at those units. So it would be interesting to see how they intend to also have their county integrated development plans, looking at what are going to be their priorities, particularly for the vulnerable groups. Thirdly, and I think lastly for me, would be again the issues of accountability. How will they address areas that have been flagged for the last 10 or 5 years around areas of wastage? We have seen issues around wage bill at county level. So we know we need to provide services which has a cost. But again, there's the issue of a lot of the resources going to the wage bill, and so it reduces the capacity to provide services. So if we can be able to balance this, how do we raise revenue? Because I know there are a lot of commitments, manifestos and everything that people shared, but now is when you need to realize it. How will you do it with limited resources? And people are very sensitive to any increment on the tax and the fees. So it's very it would be very interesting to see that. And I think there's an opportunity, particularly now when the counties are saying that it will be an open event and they're talking to the people who elected them, for them to have a conversation. And I'm hoping this is something that the counties can do. Ask their smaller businesses to commit not to avoid or close shops when people need to collect the tax, but also the communities to use that payment of tax as an avenue to have the counties agree that we will reduce corruption. Our audit reports will change at county level. So there's great opportunity where we can use tax as an area that can then say we can be able to reduce corruption, and you then can be able to finance the development agenda that we have at the county. So I'm really looking forward to how that plays out. Of course, it's also interesting to see how the county assemblies will be able to hold the county executive to account. We have seen in the last 5 years that at times that doesn't happen very effectively. So I hope this is also something that we will see in the next, in this term as the government assume.
Okay, and I'd like to come back on that issue of taxation. Concerns about inter-county tax for those who are transporting their produce across county borders. Some argue, why should I pay tax? You said the small business people should not close their businesses when the county askaris come to collect revenue. Some would argue, why should I pay for services I don't receive? But we'll get into that. Dr. Gitau, which counties have done, because this is a third electoral cycle, this is the third time we are seeing governors take their oaths of office since the constitution was promulgated in 2010. The first election after that was in 2013. Which counties have been performing well?
So I would say in terms of performance, majority of the counties...
In healthcare?
Yeah, in healthcare. Majority of the counties definitely have made steps in the right direction. Of course, there are those who stand out, such as Makueni, who's been able to actually improve access to services to their people. You have places like Kisumu, who've actually improved the community health strategy. So you have a lot of the northern frontier counties who've actually, for the first time, been able to actually take some service provision to actually the people and actually have doctors in these particular areas. So indeed, without mentioning specific counties, we can say there are those counties which were more favorable in terms of improving access. But on the whole spectrum, we can just say is that in terms of infrastructure, there was a lot of work that was done by the previous governors. So right now, I would say in terms of the counties who've not been treating health workers very well, and indeed some of the county governors who lost, and you would see health workers celebrating because pretty much they were mistreated in the counties. For instance, just to mention Laikipia, I think some of the health workers were sacked 3 years ago, and I think the new governor has come in and they said we are going to reinstate these people. So what the governors pretty much in terms of the health service, what we are looking for in terms of the new governors. One, are we able to keep our health workers? Are we able to ensure sustainable health products available to everyone in Kenya? And in terms of the efficiency of service provision, we want you not to travel to come to Nairobi for a mammography. Are county governments able to do that? And delays in service provision. Sometimes we have a lot of push and pull either within health workers or even lack of drugs in the facilities due to certain delays either in budgeting, certain delays in approval, and it actually influences the health of the people.
Okay. Yeah. And Kirinyaga County is another one. I think when Anne Waiguru was before Senate, some health workers testified for her removal from office, and that has been a long-standing dispute.
And I hope during her second term, I think she has a huge burden in terms of ensuring that the challenges that she had in her first term with health workers and even just pushing the health agenda, we do hope during this second term there'll be more harmony. I think she had a meeting with health workers just before her re-election, and I do hope the promises which she gave to healthcare workers and even in terms of improving health services within Kirinyaga, she'll be keeping them.
All right.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. But Sylvia, I'd like you to come in at this point and hear the faces. Here is Wavinya Ndeti, all smiles. Jonathan B, I think they call him, is it Koti Moja?
Yeah.
Johnson Sakaja, Nairobi, Fatma Achani, Kwale, Ken Lusaka, Bungoma, Susan Kihika, Nakuru. Speaking of governors in the league of Ken Lusaka, because here I see the Daily Nation tells us that among the county chiefs are 26 first-term governors, 11 incumbents, and 8 making a comeback, including in Baringo County. I think I saw Benjamin Choboi in that report by Leila Mohammed at the start. Is it these 8 who are coming back? Is it a case of no options or a case of reflecting and thinking that perhaps the devil that was there before is better than the new one?
You know, it does speak a lot to the incumbent. It speaks a lot. Why would, you know, fighting an incumbent is always the hardest thing. But for an electorate to decide, we don't even want to see you try to either rectify whatever issues we have with you as a leader. We don't want that. You just go. Let's go back, you know, where we had started before. It's very telling of that tenure, of that 5-year tenure of that particular governor. And actually, if you look into those counties, you're going to hear a lot of complaints from the people about the leadership of that governor. And more often than not, it is about corruption. You will hear plundered public resources. And you see, the thing that governors need to remember is that Kenyans are becoming a lot more politically aware. We are not where we were 10 years ago. We now are beginning to deeply understand what is my MCA doing for me? What is my MP doing for me? What is my expectation of my governor? Kenyans are beginning to really understand that issue. And they're going to use, you know, this is why I keep saying, let's celebrate devolution. And let us, you know, guard devolution with everything that we have. Because finally, Kenyans are rising to, you know, to the occasion that money, this money that is coming down to the counties is our money, and it has to be spent to uplift, you know, our lives. And any governor who is joking with that issue we'll be going home every 5 years. And we're still going to see a lot of that happening. Anyone who comes into power at the county level and does not demonstrate either transparency in how they do their procurements or, you know, improvement of services to the people, they will not last beyond those first 5 years. And something I wanted to comment about as we see these governors coming into power and assuming office, we know the biggest challenge, one of the biggest challenges they're assuming is pending bills. You know, pending bills are over 120 billion as we speak in the counties. Some a lot more than others. I know, like the county government of Makueni, Governor-elect Mutula is inheriting not even 7 million in terms of pending bills, which is one of the lower counties. Some, like Machakos, are so much higher. I think Machakos is at, if I'm not wrong, almost 3 billion. Others are at 5 billion. Nairobi is 84 billion.
Mombasa was about 4 billion.
Yes. So imagine you're starting your tenure with pending bills. And you know, this question of pending bills is the same thing like on a national level where we have a country that is laden with pending bills and loans. And you're wondering how are we going to, you know, improve our economy? These governors really have a task at their hands. And like I think Irene has said, on-source revenue is a big area where many of our counties have not been able to improve on their revenue, what do you call it, collection of on-source revenue. So these governors have such a big task when it comes to dealing with this issue of pending bills. And one other challenge I know that county governments have had, and we've discussed this severally in several forums, is the problem of borrowing. You know, there's no framework for counties to be able to borrow. Now we know that the budgets they get, as much as it's a lot of money and it sounds a lot of money, the 9 billion and the 19 billion that comes to Nairobi and all the others that go to the counties, we know most of that money goes back to recurrent budgets. And in fact, governors have a challenge with their executives in trying to balance what then goes to development and how much goes to recurrent budgets. And many counties are still at 60-40. 60% of the revenue goes to recurrent and 40% goes to development. And many of them can't even hit that 40%. They're still like at 30% development agenda. And imagine with that delicate balance, you have pending bills that you are inheriting now to add onto it. Then we have serious, I think, restrictions on public-private partnerships for the counties, something that the law really needs to look into, to find methods of making it easier for governors to be able to find partners, even if it is globally, to come and help with service delivery on certain things. So there are certain things that these governors now will have to push, being now the next, almost like a next generation set of governors, or we can just say the next level of devolution. We have to see certain things now also being corrected. We have to look to laws that now are helping county governments with their own source revenue, so we can open up their markets as well, so that we can have a lot more happening in the local economy. And we just don't rely on the equitable share that then goes 60% to recurrent and 40%. And that's in a county that has really tried, where 40% actually goes to development. And that development has to be spread across the counties equitably. So then you find then what ends up is a little here, a little development here, a little development here, rather than having major development of great impact. So you find that is what's happening. And then the other thing I will really want to see of our governors is civic education. They have to participate in making sure our electorate is more educated civically as we go on. I think one of the things that we've said, I don't know whether it's on this platform and before the election, we did say that civic education was very poorly conducted and very little of it done in the last 5 years. And this has to be a continuous process. The former governor of Makueni did a fantastic job in civic education. In fact, you will hear that the models for public participation in Makueni are amongst the best. And in fact, at one time, they were benchmarking, other governors were coming to benchmark in Makueni on public participation, which is very critical. And our constitution envisions a situation where the public, everybody, every Kenyan participates in any budget that is being created. So budget making at the counties starts at the ward level. And Kenyans are encouraged. In fact, governors usually call for these public sittings where people come and they participate in the budget making process. And you see, unless public is constantly being educated on these things, and especially our young people, because there seems to be a serious gap in civic education, probably in the last 10 years. The next set of governors have to spearhead civic education so that we can see a more participatory electorate, more participatory, citizenry, and that is the way we are really going to tighten all our, issues when it comes to how to monitor and how to check on how public expenditure is happening. So all these form part of the expectations that we have for the next governors.
Okay. Irene, I'd like you to comment on this issue of pending bills and if it's a question of National Treasury delaying the disbursement of funds owed to the counties, although Sylvia did say some counties are not doing as poorly as others. So is it a question of the management of the funds? But Sylvia talked about 60% recurrent in most cases.
Yes.
Expenditure. And I can see here on, this is page what? Don't move it. But in the Daily Nation, a report by Brian Ambani, public wage bill crosses 500 billion shilling mark for first time. Do you recall what was on the front page of the Business Daily? That bank loan defaults cross $500 billion for the first time. So a lot of firsts and not good firsts to speak of in the dailies today. And this report by Brian Ambani says it could get even worse as the government has lifted hiring freeze. The public wage bill, and sorry, here at the top, I think it mentioned counties. Counties are also living beyond their means. The public wage bill crossed the $500 billion mark for the first time in the year ended June. New data shows exerting huge pressure on the county's thinned revenue envelope. Latest data from the Central Bank of Kenya shows the bill shot up by 5.5% to hit a record 520 billion in the year to June, increasing by 27 billion from 493 billion in the previous year. This was more than double the figure of 274.4 billion in the financial year 2012-13 before President Uhuru Kenyatta took office, even though he and Mr. William Ruto rose to power on the promise of consolidating and rationalizing the civil service to eliminate overlaps and duplication of functions. And it goes on and on. But what do you make of this, Irene, specifically this part of counties, as Sylvia has talked about, appear to be living beyond their means?
First, or to just a follow-up to what has been stated around pending bills. Pending bills, I think, is something that we need to look at critically. Our work as an institution around the last 5 years, we've picked particularly questions around legal fees. And I want to just spotlight Nairobi. Nairobi County has had very huge pending bills on legal fees. In spite of having a legal department and an attorney at county level, they still outsource significant part of their litigation. It has been picked by Controller of Budget, picked by Auditor General, and of course picked by all of us as concerned citizens, because you wouldn't want to spend a lot of your money on issues of litigation at the expense of service delivery. So I would say it's important that we pay pending bills, but equally important that we scrutinize the validity of those pending bills. A lot of them are going to law firms that are fictitious matters going to court. So it's a way that has been used by the county to just get money off. But I do understand that pending bill is almost making businesses close. So it's something we need to fast track and prioritize. And I'm happy that Treasury had said this is something you have to pay fast before you even do other payments. So I think that one is clear that it's an urgent thing that needs to be looked at. But when you mention the wage bill, what I have not always understood around the wage bill, we say there is high unemployment in Kenya. So why is our wage bill that high? Statistics show from the Kenya Bureau of Statistics that only 17% of Kenyans are formally employed. So 17% of Kenyans taking more than 50% of the budget. That shows that we are seriously overpaying some people. And I'm happy that even with the elections, we saw what we are paying IEBC. And the commissioners, they are the ones who had to put it out there when they were saying they can't be corrupted because of how much they pay. But when you look at how much we are paying those people, how much we are putting on health insurance, while we have you tell the other citizens to do NHIF. So I think the conversation has to be around equity in how we take care of our employees. Remember, minimum wage is also around 17 to 18,000. So you have on this hand 17 to 18,000. On the other hand, you have even the elected members who are coming in. Look at how much they are being paid. So I think as a country, we need to prioritize. And I'm happy that the Salaries and Remuneration Commission has attempted. You have seen the changes when these elected members will be coming. The sitting allowance has been kind of, they're trying to tame that. But I think the main problem in Kenya is the allowances that we pay. Because I cannot be paying you your basic salary and so much allowance. And remember, for this allowance, our country, we have tried having conversation as civil society organizations with the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, asking if someone is going for a foreign trip, do you have to give them the cash float? Is it the interest before? We have seen the Auditor General pointing out, and I remember it was a first lady in one county who had said they are going either to America or something for 4 days, got a float of around 600 if I'm not wrong. But the passport was never stamped. This means this was money that, you know, someone claimed to have traveled, was given, but not. So I think this wage bill is really not where it is. It's simply there because of the corruption. It's simply there because of the way the country has refused to be equitable. I do not think it makes sense when a part of the country is sleeping without food for you to be saying you're paying an allowance per day of almost so many thousands. So I think there was a national wage bill conference where the country took there were 10 key recommendations. A key one was, how do we rationalize allowances? I don't know how far that has gone. Question was also, how do we have conversations with the unions? I remember my colleague has mentioned about the doctors. So there's a lot of the CBAs with the doctors. There's a lot of demands with the doctors. But generally, as a Kenyan who is also feeling the weight of this wage bill, my take is that it's a serious conversation that we need to agree as Kenyans. Would you prefer your safety comfort zone, or do you prefer that we strengthen public services? Allow me to just use an extra 2 minutes to demonstrate. Remember the COVID-19 crisis, where even me with my health insurance, I could not be helped. It couldn't help. We all have to go to public hospitals. They're the ones who were trying to take care of us. But all of us, you have the IEBC, look at their pay that they say we have private health insurance for our staff. Look at all parastatals, all government, they have private. County themselves that should be providing health care, all have private insurance for their assembly, the executive. So who do they want to use that public health? So I think it's time, as a country, we say we are going to prioritize public services. So when you prioritize public services, you've removed the burden that we are paying on, hey, private insurance. You've reduced so many things, and it's more equitable, because we have seen the private sector will leave you to the dogs when you really need them. But in terms of equity, how many people have, how many Aga Khans are there in Turkana? None. So when you privatize your healthcare, what do you want those vulnerable people to do? So I think the wage bill is just a matter of the elite trying to give themselves and cushion themselves too much at the expense of everyone else. I think we should either decide, get rid of allowances, drastic things. I think as a country, we have gotten to the level where the debt is high, the tax is high. Even if you try to tax, you will increase the tax rate, but businesses will be closing. So the net effect is you're not increasing the tax. It's at the same level. It will not come as high as you expected. So then it means we have to agree, we have to reduce some costs. And my take is have discussions to reduce allowances. Speak to Kotu and the team. I know Atwoli was against and saying if Salaries and Remuneration Commission attempts to touch allowances, it will be a fight. But I think we need to come even to a conversation with the unions themselves and tell them, okay, we might not be able to add your salary direct. But you know, even if I add you 30,000, but out of the 30,000 I've added you, 10,000 you're going to Aga Khan. Another 10,000 you're paying for your child's education in a private school. In essence, I've not added you anything. So we can all be at modest remuneration, but ensure we have strengthened public services. Of course, it's a challenge because our government is also not sincere. You and me can agree to take the modest pay, but they will not improve those health services. So I think it's something that if we all parties don't take it seriously as the people being paid this huge, who are drawing this huge public wage, we need to say, hey, let's be fair to this country. But also when you say let's be fair, it will even give you room to hold accountable. You cannot agree to take a lower salary and then see what we have seen around inauguration of 22 million. You would say it doesn't make sense because I cannot agree to be modest while you are extravagant on the other side. That is why I also had a big problem with the budgets we were talking about, in as much as my colleague was mentioning that we cut them some slack. But I don't think as a country we have that capacity to cut them some slack either way, because our reality is very, very different. And when you mentioned Homa Bay, I was concerned because I know Wanga, Governor Wanga, was the one heading, is it the Finance and Planning Committee?
Yes, Finance and Budget.
So we made many presentations before her as an institution and citizen saying, reduce this tax. And her report at the end of the day says, we have nowhere to get the money to reduce this tax. So if you want us to reduce tax on maybe LPG, tell us where we'll get the resource. So it's now unfortunate that when she's on the other side, she's not remembering that she had no capacity. So where is this 20 billion coming if not from taxpayers? So I think we really need to be sincere. Our leaders just need to understand that we as taxpayers are having it tough. Families, when they are using 20 million, it means a household has nothing to eat. So I think the correlation, let us not look at numbers as just 20 million, but look at it as a household that has no food on the table. Children, we have seen in the recent past, children, mothers giving their children water with salt because there is no food on the table. So I think in a country such as ours, you really cannot have to be having inaugurations of 20 million. It is totally unacceptable.
All right. Yeah. I think the Controller of Budget described it as unimaginable. But we need to take a break. But when we come back, Dr. Gitau, and I was just scrolling through the Daily Nation, and I saw this: retired public servants deserve top health care. And we'll get into that. But it reminded me that when Irene was talking about private insurance, but in public, for public servants, we've seen reports that their statutory deductions are not being, either have been, there's a delay in their remittance, yeah. Or just a failure. So what happens in that case, and what innovation perhaps needs to happen? We take a break, we'll be back.
Mivida Garden City, a residential development within Garden City offering stunning 1, 2 and 3 bedroom apartments, unique amenities and an urban green convenient living. Call us today on 0722 123 000. Mivida, my home, my life.
The assumption of the office of the County Governor Committee in Kilifi County hereby notifies the public that the swearing-in ceremony for Governor-elect His Excellency Gideon Maitha Mungaro and the Deputy Governor-elect Her Excellency Flora Margaret Mbetsa Chibule will take place on Thursday, the 25th of August 2022 at Karisa Maitha Grounds in Kilifi Town. You are all cordially invited.
Everybody feel it come around, we grind, we grind. Everybody feel it come around, we grind, we grind. Everybody, 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 everybody. Oh yeah! Everybody in the front, front, front. Everybody in the front, front, front. Everybody in the front, front, front.
The music right here on Nation FM is on another level. We're playing the best hits, the biggest hits, right here on 96.3 Nation FM. My name is Antonio Soul. It's the Nation FM Drive every single weekday, Monday to Friday, from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. The best hits, the best conversation, the best guests. It's all about entertainment, business, politics, and everything in between. Call me Sugar, because I keep it sugar and spice and all things nice.
Everybody, everybody, round, around, around.
We remain worried. We are concerned even by the authorities taking on people.
As the longest-running pandemic swept through the world, Africa braced for impact.
The beauty of this is that, Africa had learned from some lessons.
The promise of ingenuity and strong partnerships built on mutual respect breathed hope into the fight.
The MasterCard Foundation will deploy $1.3 billion.
Can one more push get the continent over the line?
But our basis is not a donation.
Unless and until the continent is equipped with the ability to manufacture vaccines, we will continue to be very vulnerable.
This is the untold story of how Africa has defied the odds in its response to COVID-19.
Your generosity imesaidia kuignite a love for reading in our children. Nunua any Cadbury Story Edition packs, scan QR code, na generously share your homegrown story. Cadbury, there's a glass and a half in everyone.
At the first sign of pain, you need a solution that you can trust. Try Panadol Advance. With Panadol's Optizode formula, the tablet absorbs quickly and starts providing fast and effective pain relief you can trust. Try Panadol Advance.
This is NTV.
Welcome back to AM Live, and we're interrogating the devolved units of government, devolved system of government that we adopted in the Constitution of 2010, our current Constitution, and that we got the ball rolling on with the 2013 general election. And so Sylvia Tafakari Haya, as as Dr. Gitau responds to the question on statutory deductions and their remittance. I have my Siri here, who's asking, in the transition to counties, the law stipulated that the transfer of functions should be asymmetrical. But President Uhuru Kenyatta heeded to pressure from governors in 2013 to transfer functions symmetrically without the defunct transitional authority doing a capacity audit. Is this the reason counties are underdeveloped? Perhaps they took on too much. There's a time healthcare workers were like, leave us at the national level. Did they take on too much too soon? Sylvia, think about that. But first, let's hear from you, Dr. Gitau. And also, we saw these presidential candidates make a lot of promises as far as healthcare is concerned. At the national level, I know the now president-elect, William Ruto, promised to reduce NHIF contributions, the minimum, to, I guess, accommodate more people under NHIF. And then there was a promise of diapers, I think, from that quarter. But also, on the other side, Azimio also made pledges such that they will address healthcare so that families don't become bankrupt as a result of one of their loved ones falling ill. Were these commitments made at the county levels? Were you engaged as stakeholders at the county level?
Okay. So, indeed, before even we go into the promises that were made, we go back to the conversation of pending bills and statutory deductions. Indeed, it's very unfortunate for county workers to actually have their NHIF not submitted, their KRA not submitted. So you're going to get a bank loan and you find yourself 4 years down the line, you've not been able to, your taxes have not been paid. For instance, indeed, my president at the Kenya Medical Association is one of the victims, and he's actually sent me a screenshot of what he received from KRA. For the last 4 years, KRA has never received his pay. So indeed, it is very unfortunate, even as we speak about pending bills, that even your own workers, you're not able to keep them well. You do not submit their KRA. Sometimes even NHIF, you're a county employee, even a healthcare worker, you're going to seek services in the same facility where you work, and your NHIF is not up to date because your governor has not submitted the same. These hidden statutory deductions, which I may not check from on a day-to-day basis, sometimes governors have refused to pay them, and some of them contribute to the increasing pending bills. When governors come into place, even as they make certain promises, one thing, especially in the healthcare sector, that is transitioning. Kenya is transitioning from a lower income country. Currently, we are a lower middle income country and even rising. What is happening, there's a reduced donor support. So I was very happy when Irene was talking about own revenues. Counties have to think about, even NHIF. NHIF is an actual source of revenue. If you have majority of the people actually paying into NHIF, you as a county are able to actually improve services within your public hospitals where your people go and you get paid by NHIF. So when it comes to counties, they have to think globally. They have to think in terms of collaboration with other counties, such as the Lake Regional Bloc. I hope other counties will actually form such engagement where they are able to see within our region where can we get a hospital so that we can leverage on efficiency. We can reduce, not every county needs to build a level 6 hospital. Every region can decide to actually contribute to make that level 6 hospitals. They can come together to get actual private partners in public-private partnerships to be able to run some of these things. So indeed, it's good, especially when you mentioned the question where the President-elect William Ruto actually said he's going to reduce the NHIF deduction. What the rationale of that is, some of the top paid executives in this country or top paid politicians actually contribute 1,700 only. Yet Mama Mboga contributes 500 bob. So there's, when it comes to the percentage of what you're contributing, it's not equitable. So indeed, I think more people should the higher paid should contribute more, and the people who are not able to pay, indeed the government should actually be able to have a way in which they collaborate between NHIF and the Ministry of Social Protection to ensure that all these people are actually paid for. Even if you lose your job today, indeed there should be a way where you register so that next month you're not out of NHIF because you're unable to pay for your services. So on that front, that's what I'd say. Were we involved in the manifesto? Some of them, yes. Some of them not, but we were able to read. And we are actually going to be keeping governors accountable, especially on the key issue of health workers, because a lot of them have noticed some of the reasons why counties do not move forward is either you do not have human resource, you're not able to retain talent because everybody keeps going away, or you're not able to retain talent because you do not have the correct equipment, the correct medication because of pending bills in KEMSA. Indeed, when you look at the control of budget, some of the things they look at is actually pending bills at KEMSA. Some counties have actually been blacklisted by KEMSA. So it means if you need Panadol, they are having either to buy at a higher price at next door because they cannot order from KEMSA, or you're not being able to get your services. So when the governors come in, first of all, they have to sort out the pending bills, especially statutory deductions for the whole of the county workers.
Okay.
Yeah.
But on the issue of KEMSA, Sylvia, a county is now allowed to procure elsewhere because there was a concern that KEMSA inflated the cost of basic health product. What do we call them?
The health, well, at the height of COVID,
you get the
of course.
gist.
Yeah, remember at the height of COVID, I was also in the center of the KEMSA scandal when we unveiled it during the ad hoc committee on COVID. No, I think KEMSA is still at the center of procurement for counties. They have really tried to streamline the laws around it. And I think it is only during COVID that the window was open, but I stand corrected. The last I left is that during COVID, there was a little window open for them at that point because of the issues that were arising and the emergency that we were dealing with. But beyond that, I doubt if they've opened the window for counties to procure for themselves. But I know there was a push towards that. But to answer your other question that you had asked about transfer of functions.
Symmetric and asymmetric.
Symmetric and asymmetric. But just to simplify it, well, there was a transition authority at that time. And if you remember, there was such excitement that devolution has finally come. And the governors really pushed. You know, there was a big push, just transfer the functions. And part of that is the excitement of wanting to realize the fruits of devolution, as opposed to being given in such tiny piecemeals. By the way, to this day, we are still questioning why there's still huge budgets held at national government for devolved functions like agriculture. To this day, we are still wondering, why does, the national government still hold such a huge budget for agriculture, for health, as well as for things like water? These are devolved functions under the 4th schedule of the Constitution. In fact, you could even highlight it there. There's the early childhood education, which is what the county governments are supposed to do. And like right now, with the CBC and the need to support parents, you can see the cost of educating parents. In as much as we have zero cost to education at the basic level, parents still spend so much money and many still struggle to send their children to school. And under the new CBC program, there's a huge cost to parents. So clearly parents need a lot of support. The budgets for CBC and for early childhood education to the counties needs to be increased without a doubt, you see. So up to today, we still have questions around realizing, the full devolution, sending those functions fully down to the counties and letting the counties do what they're supposed to do as envisioned in the Constitution. So to this day, we've still not fully realized that movement. There are questions that are there some functions that should not have been. I think when at the height of BBI, and I remember the doctors were really giving a push so that they can be removed from the functions of the county government. There are those of us who feel against that. And we are saying no. The way the Constitution was structured and the way we envisioned that service delivery has to be done at the basic level, which is at the county, and health is at that basic level, which touches on everybody. We said no. It was a very big debate, that issue of moving the functions of the doctors. And we are saying no. We should be demanding of our county governments to do what is right, to support the healthcare to the extent that every Kenyan has access to healthcare. And remember, a hospital is not healthcare. It is the services, it is the personnel, it is them who need that support so that they can give the service to the people. It is the availability of medicine. You could even you could have hospital services in a shack. As long as there's a doctor, there's a practitioner, and there's medication, isn't it? There's gloves and supplies. It could happen. So the question of why counties are not giving health the full benefits, they're not giving their citizens the full benefits of healthcare, is something we must demand of our governors. And of course, as always, a push for more funds coming down to the counties. And as Emil, there's a promise that we are going to expand, and send 35% of already what is audited. Because right now, I think when it is audited, it comes to about, 20% or something like that, 20 to 21%. At all times, the national government should be looking to send more money to the counties as a matter of priority, because the devolved functions are the most critical for everyday, everyday mwananchi. It's health, it's education, it's agriculture, it's water, And then, of course, the realization of corruption. We have to fight the cartels, because that's what really hurts us in the end, because the corruption has gone down. We have cartels practically everywhere in our governance structure, so we have to fight that. But you can see that the transfer of functions, whereas was pushed for in a hurry, it was necessary because we were thirsting to see the full devolution come to fore. And there's something else I wanted just to comment. I know we've moved on from that topic, but I have to slightly go back there. The cost of our election. Our elections are so expensive. And you find that our leaders are assuming office when they are in the negative. Let me just say that. Your personal accounts are in the negative because you have spent so much to just get into that office. And this cycle needs to stop. Let me tell you, we have to have this conversation with Kenyans. When during elections you go and take stipends and you take these little monies that you're given and you demand, because these days Kenyans are demanding. They come to listen to you in the campaign trail and they're wondering when you're going to finish talking and give them something. And Kenyans need to realize that person who you've taken something from, that something has to go back. People have sold property. Politicians have sold. Kwanzaa, this election was particularly gruesome for a lot of the politicians, and they'll tell you how expensive it was. You've sold your family properties, you've sold everything. Yes, you have won. For those who have won, you will have to get that money back somehow. And this is why the battle is always there of allowances, SRC. Last time we saw Parliament being held captive because CDF had been removed. It had to be put back during Kibaki's time. Even now we are waiting to see the CDF That's the biggest question. That's the next big thing in Parliament. The minute Parliament is constituted, I'm telling you, before the first supplementary budget is passed, they will have to be sure, do we have CDF or do we not have CDF? Because there's still a gray area there from the ruling that happened in court. So Kenyans, we have to agree with ourselves that this culture of us, you know, munakula pesa ya politicians, knowing, you should know that iyo pesa lazima irudi one way or another. And because government has no money, the money is taxpayers' money. Government has no money, it's taxpayers' money. That money comes from the taxpayer's pocket. To go back and put that person out of the negative into the positive, enough so that by the time a 5-year cycle is up, and you know 5 years is a short time, he has to now be prepared for another gruesome, expensive election. So we need to change that narrative. And let me celebrate the leaders who have managed to get office without spending too much. Because there are a few. Actually, there are a few cases. And I wish we could highlight on some of them and say, this person has become governor and they spent X amount of money. Because it's out there. Many of them are speaking about it. And I was celebrating the new governor-elect for Meru. I mean, her story is amazing. And she'll tell you how she ran for office one time and she could, you know, it broke their back completely and they had to go and sell tomatoes and onions with her husband before they get a little money and re-engineer themselves and come and do politics in a different way. And they use certain platforms to get to where, you know, to where she got without necessarily going around spending and paying crowds of people money. And that is a governor, if you watch, you will see an impact in what she's doing. Because her intent first is not to return her pocket. Because that must happen. I mean, we are, you know, these people are human. And look at those who have lost the election after spending so much. We have people in hospital. We have people with serious mental health issues right now from the stress and the trauma of losing an election. It's a serious issue. So Kenyans, we need to rationalize ourselves and demand that let us elect our leaders based on their service delivery. And those who have not yet served on their manifesto, we monitor them such that we are sure they're going to return, you know, our benefits as they have promised. And if they don't, 5 years is a short time. Toa huyo, weka mwingine. After all, that's why we have elections.
All right. So before I head to you, Irene, and I know mental health is something that's close to your heart,
very dear to
Sylvia.
me. Yes.
And you did table legislation.
We have an act of parliament now.
Yes. So
yes.
The two ladies on your side are saying very well done.
It was needed in the country.
But Irene, before I come to you on this issue of governors now in Senate and what that means for accountability, think about this. Think about this so that Irene, as Irene responds to that question, Dr. Gitau. There was a lot of hubbub about the leasing of medical equipment in the counties. And the argument is, as you put it, somebody doesn't need to come to Kenyatta National Hospital to receive some services, that those services will be accessible at the county level, regardless of which county you hail from. Has that been a success? Have there been hiccups? What's the situation there? And also, where do things stand with the clamor for a health service commission? All right, so think about that. Irene, where is it? Daily Nation. Then kuna case in a Daily Nation. I can't find the county news pages of the e-paper, so you need to rectify that. I thank the county government of Uasin Gishu for this business that they have brought for Daily Nation. But I can see here Jackson Mandago, thank you for the 10 years. If I am not mistaken, this man is now sitting in the Senate. And I don't mean to single him out. But what does it mean for accountability when governors finish 10 terms and now seek to occupy seats in Senate?
Really, I think that's something also I've thought about, but I don't have whether it's a pro, whether it's a con, is it a good thing, is it a bad thing? But what I have seen most for us is that we look at political office majorly, I guess, I wouldn't want to, again, probably just narrow down on him, but the general feeling is that people don't want to be out of government positions. So if I can't get a governor because legally it's not possible, then I want to cross over and become a senator. But whatever, if I'm to assume that it has a positive effect, one would be, as the governor, you have seen the problematic areas, the areas that allow for maybe seepages and leakages of funds. So I'm assuming as a senator who then should be oversighting, I know there's the assembly, but they also look out for the interests of the county, then you might be better placed inside because of the insider information. Remember also as a governor, what my colleagues have mentioned, the financial constraints, so limited resourcing. So I guess having been a governor and you've come in with very solid plans, but you are not able to implement it because of the funding, then when you are a senator who should be promoting the interests of the counties, then I'm sure you'll be more passionate and given even more evidence why we should increase allocations to county level. You might be able to even give more insights into why we need to remove a lot of the funds that are still held at national level to allow your governor to be able to work. So I view a senator and a governor as both trying to look out for the interests of a county. So if a senator has been a governor before, if it's a legitimate interest that took them to Senate, then I see values in that two sense. One would be they are then able to push more for increased allocations to the county to facilitate the governor to be able to discharge their mandate. That is the immediate benefit I'm seeing. In terms of maybe a drawback why it wouldn't be good, unless there were personal issues between maybe the governor and the senator, where you would then want to, remember a lot of them when there are audit queries, they've been coming again to Senate. So it might be a space where I would take now to witch hunt and, you know, and just make your work terrible and hard. So that is the fear I see. It depends, I think it will be contextual. How are the counties operating? So if there's bad blood between me and the governor, I assume the governor would not be able to move agenda. They will be perennially come before us, send your people to come and explain ABCD, which would slow down implementation. But if there are two people that then are looking at the interests of a county and to serve the people within that county, I think it can work beautifully, because Senate should be able to promote the interest of county. So having been an inside player as a governor, I can be able to even hold the hand of the current governor and say, these are the challenges, and as Senate, these are the interests. So my take would be, if we have several former governors that have made it to Senate, can they be able even to share best practice from what happened to them as governors, and now this vantage opportunity they have as being senators, what can they push together as people that were previously there to showcase and say, we really need to increase allocations to county because this is our experience and this is really what must happen. I think that would be more credible than even us as civil societies who would be saying increase allocations, or what we don't have the reality of a day-to-day of a governor. So it would be interesting, and I think that's something we should be able to push. I know there are also funders that support lessons and what were the gains, challenges within. You should be able to bring these former governors together who are now in Senate. How do we then use that information and to move and add your voice to the issues around increased allocation, to the issues around also intergovernmental relations, push for that, because we have said you don't have to maybe build a level 6 hospital, you say. So they would be able to say, as a governor, I tried improving healthcare. With the resourcing I had as one county, it's impossible. So can we look at intergovernmental relations that would make work much easier for counties? So I think it's mixed, but it's a wait and see for me.
Okay. Yeah, so just briefly, so that we have time for
just
on
that particular issue. The only setback is that right now, currently, what Parliament does under the Public Accounts Committee, you find that they are reviewing accounts in arrears. So you'll find that if a governor is now currently in Senate and you are just serving in this last term, they will be reviewing their accounts maybe 3 years in. Usually it's in arrears. And that, of course, is a conflict. And it will be now the negative part of what she's saying. This governor will certainly, without doubt, interfere with the looking into of those books, without a doubt. But now Parliament is beginning to increase their capacity in the Public Accounts Committee, because they need to review these accounts in almost real time. Rather than it being a historical affair, it needs to be as current as possible. And until the Senate is able to do that, I think governors should have been given a gap. There should be a law that says you can't run immediately after your tenure. You wait for 5 years, then you can run.
All right, Dr. Gita?
So as we wrap up regarding the MES, It's one of the most brilliant projects that has ever been thought of in this country. But however, because of issues, of course, of lack of accountability, lack of transparency, and lack of oversight, public participation, we ended up with a corruption deal. So indeed, the MES scheme provided equipment where they were needed. And if had been implemented in the right format, at the right price, indeed Kenyans would have been able to enjoy MES. Some of the challenges with MES was one, without stakeholder participation, some county hospitals got equipment they were not able to use. Some of them did not even have the kind of electrical connection to be able to operate this machine. They did not have the radiologists to operate this machine or other healthcare workers. We did not get into a position in terms of having medical engineers who are actually trained within Kenya to be able to service these machines. So this opaque nature, if I was to use that very, very new word, this opaque nature and lack of transparency is pretty much what has actually led to MES not being utilized very well. But for those counties who, even with the delays, for those counties who are actually able to roll out the machines, you're actually now having, like for instance, you go to Lamu and you're able to have your CT scan done. So indeed, if looking back, of course, there were very many mistakes done regarding the contractual issues. But since we already have the machines, maybe now it's for the counties who actually now still have the machines and they're still paying for it every year. So to look at how can we make this more efficient, can we bring in healthcare workers, can we improve on teleradiology so that you're able to utilize them. On the issues of healthcare workers and health service commission, it's very difficult for counties to maintain the practice of medicine in the way in which everybody gains. For instance, if you train 3 OBGYN in Murang'a County and you retain all of them while Turkana County does not have an OBGYN, yet this is one country, and it becomes very impossible to actually switch people around, to be able to get the talent where it is required, to be able to have people improve their skills and be able to serve people better, be able to make sure that in terms of the wage bill, we are not crying that you cannot hire a doctor because of a wage bill. So indeed, in terms of the Health Service Commission, those are some of the pain points that we really have to think about, so that if we want to improve the health of Kenyans, we must be able to bring the human resource management in one place. And that is why, from the health workers' perspective, a Health Service Commission is very, very important. We do understand devolution is present, and in fact, a Health Service Commission goes to serve devolution, because a governor would only be asking for the health workers that they need, instead of hiring those you don't need, or having 10 surgeons who you're actually not utilizing, or some counties not having nurses because they are unable to actually remove the nurses who are actually hired to go for better training. So indeed, we'll still keep on clamoring for the Health Service Commission, and we do hope even with the new government, with the new Senate, we shall be able to look at what would be the best possible direction to ensure healthcare workers in this country are able to move around, are able to improve their skills, and they're able to improve health service delivery.
All right, thank you very much. And my colleague Winnie Lubembe, who is presently in the studio. Winnie, looking good in your suit. She's going to take forward the health conversation. And I saw a poster about engendering. Just 1 second. I saw a poster she shared on our WhatsApp group. Let me just quickly trace it as I wind up. We've been joined by Irene. I can multitask, I am a woman. We've been joined by Irene Otieno, who is the National Coordinator, National Taxpayers Association, Sylvia Kasanga, a former nominated senator, as well as Dr. Liz Gitau, who is the Assistant Secretary General, Kenya Medical Association. Thank you, ladies, for coming through. Winnie? Wait, oh, I found it. Engendering economic stimulus packages to COVID-19. And I can see she also has an all-female panel this morning. So, wanawake tunatawala leo asubuhi kwenye NTV. Thank you for joining us on AM Live. I've been your host, Olive Burrows. Enjoy the rest of your morning.